All right, we're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Viking Codecast. My name is Erik Trautman. I'm the founder of Viking Code School, and this is a weekly conversation with developers around the world about all the relevant, awesome things that they're working on and that they can do to help you guys better get yourselves into development. So Viking Code School, for those who don't know, is an online program designed to take you from beginner to job, and we have a number of different ways of doing it, but all of them are fun, and that's why we're here. So I'm really excited to welcome everyone here who's listening, and of course Jennifer, who's going to be speaking with us. And this is well timed for the students, those of you who are taking the full-time program right now, since you guys are ramping up into job mode. Jennifer has a long background of programming, but actually went through a boot camp, which I think hopefully she'll be able to talk a little bit about, and has learned a lot about how you can sort of market yourself and optimize what you have out there in your digital presence to get yourself in the door once you've had an experience like this. So I'm really excited to welcome Jennifer. Jennifer, thank you for coming here. I know you have some stuff planned out here, so I think from here I'll just leave this in your hands and take it away.
All right, well, thank you very much. I went through and shared my screen, so is everybody seeing my screen okay?
I see the infinity of reality.
Yeah, it just went into that when I shared my screen. So I'm going to change over to this. As Erik said, my name is Jennifer Bland. I am a software engineer working for CNN here in Atlanta, Georgia. A little bit about information about my background. I used to be a computer programmer for over 10 years, and my specialty was Lotus Notes programming. And even when I was doing programming, IBM hired me to write a book on programming. So if you've ever read the book, Developing E-Business Applications Using Lotus Domino on the AS400, I wrote that book. So make sure you go out and get it. It makes great Christmas gifts, coffee table book type presentation. But I wrote that for IBM. They flew me up to their headquarters, and I lived in a hotel for 6 weeks and actually wrote that book for them. I got out of programming simply because Lotus Notes kind of went into a decline, and I went into another area in my life. So the last job that I had, I was working in the training department at Aaron's, which is the rent-to-own, lease-to-own company that might have stores in your location. And I was working on creating training classes for our employees to show them how to do their job, and whether they're the employees in the store or whatnot. And a little over a year ago, I walked into a Barnes & Noble, and they have the clearance books, on a table right as you walk in the door. And I picked up a book on JavaScript programming for $1. And I spent a month working through that book and just learning JavaScript programming. And I remembered how much of a passion I had for programming when I was doing it. And I decided to go back into programming and get away from what I was doing currently and get back into programming. And I attended a boot camp that's based out of California, and I did their online version. So I did everything online from here in Atlanta. And then once I graduated May 20th of last year. I graduated June 20th of last year. And July 20th, I started working for CNN, and I've been working for them ever since. So that gives you a little bit of information about myself, and what I wanted to share with you tonight is my firsthand experience of coming out of a boot camp, basically changing career paths like most of you that introduced yourself already are doing the exact same thing, and what I did to be able to improve my chances in getting a job and then getting multiple job offers after I graduated. So I'm going to go through, instead of doing the slide full screen, I'm going to just show you the slides, and then I'm going to jump over and actually show you everything in a first-hand manner so that you understand it. So I'll go ahead and get started. Tonight I'm going to talk about LinkedIn and GitHub, why they're important for you in your job hunt process. Most of the time, what you're going to use is LinkedIn. People are going to, if you are a hiring manager and you're looking for a position, or if you're an HR person in a company, you will go out and do a search on LinkedIn to find potential candidates to fill that job. Recruiters also use it. LinkedIn has a thing that recruiters will use to do that. And I'll actually will show you how you can use your LinkedIn profile so that you'd be more attractive to HR managers and to recruiters and anybody else that's looking to fill a job position. When you're looking at jobs that are posted, that are out there, what you'll find that only about 20% of the jobs that are posted are available. I got 3 job offers after I graduated from a boot camp. None of those 3 jobs were actually advertised online anywhere. I actually went through recruiters for them, so you're able to use a resource that these people are using, since you're basically looking at 80% of the jobs aren't out there being advertised online. So you want to be able to do something to attract that hidden 80% of the job market. So when you're looking at LinkedIn, the number one thing that recruiters will use to find people to fill positions is they have a product that's called LinkedIn Recruiter. It's a paid product that recruiters will use. Hiring managers and HR people will actually use pretty much the same functionality that LinkedIn Recruiter provides. So if you're looking to get a job, depending on where you are in the country, some companies use recruiters, some people don't. Regardless of where they are, if you are using a recruiter, I will tell you from experience, if you're using a recruiter and the recruiter asks you to pay them to find you a job, run away, don't walk, run away. Most of the times recruiters, in fact, all good recruiters are paid by the company themselves, so you should not be paying a recruiter. When you look at what they're using to find potential candidates, they're going to be using an advanced people search, and there are all these things that you can search on, and as you go through and build out your LinkedIn profile, I'll show you how to put things in so that when they do these searches, you're actually going to have your profile set up so that you will end up being shown in these searches. So that puts you in the hands of people that are doing the hiring. And, like I say, Bill Walsh, the great football coach, says, before you can win the fight, you've got to be in the fight. So LinkedIn is your way of being in the fight. When you go out and look at a LinkedIn profile, on the far right, you're going to see what your level of your profile is. And so I'm going to flip over here, and if I look at my profile, right here on the right, you'll see the profile strength, and I'm listed as an all-star. There are 7 different levels that you have. There are 5 different levels that you have of profiles. In order to get to all-star, which is the highest, there's 7 requirements that you must have. And by going in and meeting all 7 of these requirements, you're also meeting all the things that people will be doing when they're doing their job search. So the first thing that you're going to need is a profile picture. So here's an example of some profile pictures. All valid profile pictures, they are not what you want to put into your LinkedIn profile. So for example, if you see here is my LinkedIn profile. It kind of looks like a professional headshot, but the way that I got this was I did this through Fiverr. So if you're not familiar with Fiverr, there is a website called Fiverr, Fiverr.com. Any type of product that you want to buy on Fiverr costs $5, which is why it's called Fiverr. There is a guy here that will basically do Photoshop editing of anything that you want to have. And I'll give you an example of something that he did for me just this past week. Here's a picture of my mother, excuse me, who's writing a children's book, and she needs a professional headshot. So this was a picture that I took of my mother. And as you can see, as an 80-year-old woman, she's starting to see a little bit of signs of age. You know, you can see some of the wrinkles showing up and everything else like that. I sent the picture to this guy. This is what I got back from him in 2 days. And it cost me, actually it cost me $10 because I paid $5 extra to get it back pretty quickly. He touched up the picture, did all the editing, and put everything in there correctly for her. So what you want to do is, if you don't have a good profile picture, then have somebody just take a picture with an iPhone or something like that, and then send it to this guy, and he will remove the background, and then he will touch it up professionally, and then you can put whatever background that you want into your profile picture. All right, then the next thing that you want to do is you want to have an industry and location. That's the second requirement that you have for meeting your all-star profile. So if I flip back over here, in here on my profile, you'll see where it has your location and, you know, what industry that you're in. Your location is based off of a zip code. Now, if you plan on working in a different area than where you're living right now, so for example, right now I live in Atlanta. If I wanted to get a job in New York and I want to job hunt in New York, make sure that the zip code that you put in here is for New York. Don't put it for Atlanta. Put it for where you want to actually look for a job. And then what it'll do is it'll come up and it'll give you the geographic area that you're in, and then you give your industry. So for most of us, for graduating from a boot camp being programmers, our industry is going to be information technology and services. So now that you've got, that's the second industry, the second step that you need for an all-star profile. The next thing that you need to have is a current position. And what you can have for your current position is you can tell it that you're actually looking for a new job. That's a very good key to put in for anybody that's looking to hire, whether it be a recruiter, be an HR, or the hiring manager. If they see that, they know that that's somebody that's actively looking, and they're more willing to approach you. So for example, right here, in my current job, right now I have it set to CNN because that's where I'm working. What you might do is you would put in that you're a student and that you're actively looking for a new position. So you would have that information in for your current job. And for your description that you can put in, you can basically put in that, you know, I'm currently looking for, you know, my next opportunity to work as a software engineer or a front-end engineer or a back-end engineer or a full-stack engineer after graduating. And one of the things that people can search on are certain keywords. So when you put in your actual title that you have available in here, so I have software engineer, so what you might want to do is actually put into your title keywords that people might be searching on. And I'll give you some examples on that. So here's somebody that I know that put in, here's the description of where they are. They put in that they're a full stack engineer with Angular, React, Node, Express, and JavaScript technologies. So there are 6 keywords that she put in there: full stack, software engineer, Angular, React, Node, Express, and other JavaScript technologies. This person does the exact same thing. She formats it a little bit differently. So instead of doing comma separated, she does the pipe signal in there to separate out that, you know, this is what she's experienced with. And these are fields that people can actually search on. So when you create your current position, make sure that you stuff it with keywords that when people search, they're going to be able to find you by having that information that's in there. The next thing that you're going to have is your 2 past positions that you worked at. Now, if some of you, if you've only had maybe 1 job before you attended a boot camp, break that down into two past positions, because that is a requirement to have an all-star profile, is that you have to have two past positions. So if you've only had one job, you can break it into multiple positions, like you were an entry-level position and then you were promoted to something else. It's the same company, but you're basically putting it in there as two different things based on your requirements that you have in there. If that job has nothing to do with programming, then make sure that you stuff it with things that people want to have in a potential employee. You know, fast learner, good communication skills, you know, those types of keywords that you want to have, so you can put that information into your two past positions. So if you look at mine, I have, you know, I've got a little bit more work experience, so I have all of my, you know, previous work experience listed in here and in detail that's available. So that, and then you also have the opportunity of putting keywords, because when people search, that's one of the things that they'll be able to search on. The next thing that you're going to have is your education. Education is normally listed in reverse chronological order, so the last thing that you had from an education standpoint is listed first. If you never attended college, if you attended but you didn't graduate, be sure to put that in there. If you never attended college, make sure that you put in that your boot camp is there for your education. If you've done any additional, you know, self-taught training like Code School, Code Academy, Udemy, Udacity, or Lynda, be sure to put that into your education, so you have that available to the users. The next thing that you want to have is your skills. And the skills is one of the biggest things that you want to have available to you. You have to have a minimum of 3. And when I'm talking about skills, if you scroll down past my work experience, here are the skills that I'm talking about. The way LinkedIn does this, by default, you can put in any skills that you want. The first 10 are listed here, and the first 10 by default are shown in order of how many endorsements that you have. That's the default value that's available to you. You do have the option of coming in here and actually changing this around so that you can actually move different, like if you have something, let me go down and find something. Let's say WordPress. I've only have 3 people that have given me endorsements, but I want to get a job that's doing WordPress development. I might want to move this up here so I can change the order around. So if you come in here and you start editing it, what you want to do is you want to be able to have all your things, and you can click on these and drag them around. And as you drag them around, it changes the order. So once you start changing the order, they're no longer ordered by the number of endorsements that you have, but instead they're ordered by the order that's important to you, and you want to show those top 10 available to you. The other thing that you want to have in here is I want to be endorsed. By default, this is set to no. You need to change that to yes. And the reason you change it to yes is that when you go visit somebody's profile, when you first look at somebody's profile, right above their picture, right above their name, you'll get a box asking you, do you want to endorse this person for these skill sets? And in that box, what LinkedIn does is it shows you the top 5 skills that you have put in. So if you want certain areas that are most important to you and the jobs that you want to get, make sure that the 5 most important ones are listed first, and they're available there. And then you want to show suggestions to your connections so that they will endorse you. And if you want to get notified anytime somebody endorses you, you can check this last one so that you can have it out here. And you can go and have as many things that you have out there. I think the limit is like 30 or 40 skill sets that you could have. but you can make them, generic. Like you can have HTML as a skill set. You can have HTML5 as a skill set. CSS, CSS3. Those are 4 different skill sets that you can have out there. And when people search, one of the fields that they can search on are skills. And by having HTML, HTML5, CSS, CSS3, you can hit pretty much anything that somebody might be searching on when they're trying to fulfill a job. And that's what you're trying to accomplish, is that you want to make it easy for them to find you so that they can put your resume in front of the hiring manager that's trying to fill an open position. So go in and put these in. If you're working through a recruiter, the LinkedIn Recruiter has a feature that if somebody's profile starts to get a lot of endorsements, it sends a notification to the recruiter to let them know. So what I recommend doing is select the skill sets, set up all the skill sets that you want in the order that you want, then have everybody in your class go in and endorse you for the exact skill sets that you want. And as soon as everybody in your class starts endorsing you, then that will send notifications to recruiters, and they'll start looking at your profile. And that's what you want to do, is you want to make it easy for them to find you so that they will end up hiring you. Then the next thing that you're going to need, and usually this is the most challenging for people that are first starting out with LinkedIn, is that you have to have 50 connections. It's not as daunting as it might seem if you don't have 50 already. Take everybody that's in your class and have all of them become a connection. That gets you started going toward the 50. Contact people that have already graduated from your school and say, hey, I'm in the process of going through the hiring process. Could you help me out and endorse me? And I'm sure they'll do that. Get your friends, get your family, get your fellow co-workers of jobs that you used to have in there. If you attended any school, contact people that you went to school with and say, can you, be a connection for me? All you need is 50. That's the last requirement that you have. If you want, connect with me, and I'll be glad to be a connection for you, and actually we'll do all the endorsements for you. Just let me know what skill sets you want, and I'll go through and I'll do that. The last thing that I want to do is that you have an option in your LinkedIn profile, is you have a summary, and looking at your profile, your summary is up here at the very top, and it has all the information about yourself and what you're experienced with and whatnot. When I go through and I look at my, I'll go in and actually edit mine because it's a little bit more detailed than what's in here. It says, here's a place where you can find my resume, here's my website, then here's some information about myself, and then I start doing the keyword stuffing. So I'm a full stack, I'm a software engineer, I have experience with the mean stack, and then I start listing out all the information that I have experiences with. And then I break it down and I say, here are the languages I'm familiar with, here are the frameworks, here are the testing, here are the tools. So you start to see how I can put all this information in so that when somebody does a search, they're going to find that. They're going to find me, because I've put that information up here in my description. I've put it in here in my summary. My current job experience, I put it in there also. So you put in all the information in here on your summary, and then you have a list of projects that you worked on. So let me scroll down here in my profile. Here are some projects that I worked on when I was in my boot camp. And it comes in and it says, okay, here's Snap It. This is a project that we worked on. And if I edit this, you put a name, you can put in the date, but the URL, make sure the URL is a link directly to your GitHub profile that has that project in it. So somebody can easily click on it and go directly into your profile and see it. And then you come in here and you can give a short description. This is another place where you can put keywords that people are going to search on so that you can have that in there to talk about. And you can put in as many projects that you've worked on so that people can actually see what you've done and what you have available to you. Then the last thing that you have on here is that you can actually change the order of information that's being displayed on the screen. So if I didn't want my work experience to come first, let's say I wanted my skill sets to come first, you have this option to move things up and down to arrange the order that they're displayed. So make sure you put it in the correct order. So I have my work experience. Then when you scroll down past my work experience, I've got my projects that are in there, and then I've got my skill sets, my education is kind of toward the bottom, and then here's my documentation, on what documents that I've actually written, what books. I'm also a real estate investor, so I've written several books on that. And then my certifications, which aren't very relevant, so they're toward the bottom that I have in my profile. But you have the option of changing the order of anything that's in your profile to be in the correct order. So mine's pretty long, somebody may not want to scroll down that much. So I put the most important stuff down there, which is my experience and my skill set. So those are the things that they're going to see first off, when they come in here. So any questions so far on what I've covered on LinkedIn?
And as a note, you guys can use the Q&A app as well. It should be in your Google Hangouts. If you're actually in the Hangout here, just unmute yourself and feel free to chat. And if anyone is available on Slack or any other channels where we can hear you, feel free to ask questions.
Yeah, I guess I had a question about connections. So when you invite others to connect or invite, how do you, because there are certain categories, like invite as a friend, invite as classmate, and the other, if you don't fit, if the person doesn't fit into any of those categories, you have to supply their email.
Correct.
And it's somehow somehow their email is inaccessible. I'm just wondering if it would be appropriate to just invite as a friend. Would that be stepping over some professional boundaries or anything? Or
I would say I have several thousand people that I'm connected to on LinkedIn, and what I do is whenever I connect with somebody, I always check friend. Always. Even if I've never physically met that person, I always check friend. If you get to a point where somebody's asking for their email in order to connect up, that's a setting that you can do in your LinkedIn profile that says that you only are allowed to connect to people that know you, and the way that they know you is by knowing your personal email address or the personal email address that you specified in your LinkedIn profile for people to connect to you. So if, for example, when I was interviewing for companies for jobs, I went out and I started doing a search. So I could come over here and let's say I can do a search for, let's say, CNN, people who work at CNN. So you have, this comes in, and I can narrow that down to I only want to look at people in Atlanta, which turns up to be 1,000 people. And here are the people that are on here, and let's say this person is a senior technical business analyst at CNN, and I want to connect to them, and I'll just click connect. If I get the little pop-up to say, how do I know Lauren Ward, I will check the radio button friend. So that's what I always do. And if you want to connect people and you don't have 50 connections, do a search for something like I did CNN, and anybody that's like a first or a second connection to you, a second connection, then you can just go down the list and just start clicking connect, 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 connect. And if all these people connect with you, you've now met that 7th requirement, is to have the 50 connections.
Great, thanks. That was a great answer. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and move over to the next part of my presentation where I'm going to be talking about GitHub. You've gone out and you've worked on your LinkedIn profile and you've gotten it to the point where hiring managers, HR people, recruiters are able to find you because you've created a good profile and made that easy for them to find you. Once they've put your resume in front of the hiring manager, one of the things I've found from my experience is those people, before you come in for an interview, will do a little bit of research about you. And one of the things that they'll go look at is they'll go look at your GitHub profile. And they want to get a little bit of information about you and your skill sets and your coding abilities before you come in so that they can start having an idea of where you might fit within the organization. One of the examples that I had is one of the companies that I interviewed for and did get a job offer from, they actually had their employees go and look at my LinkedIn, my GitHub profile, and one of the things that they looked at was, what all I've contributed to, what all, repos that I have into my profile, and everything else like that, and then they critiqued my code. And the morning that I had my job interview with that company, I actually got this exact email from that company, and these are feedback from their developers that they have, and they had questions on why I was doing certain things in my repo. And when I went in for my interview, that was how my interview started, was, okay, tell me why you didn't, do this. And I was like, okay, so at least they were looking at it. So by having a good GitHub profile, it allows you to stand out and make it easy for them to, look at you and know, whether or not you're going to fit in well within that company. One of the best ways to use in your GitHub profile is to use a README file and the edit at the top of a repo. So let me bebop over here, and I'm going to show you. So for example, here is one of my repos that are in my profile. And most people, when you go to somebody's repo, this is 9 times out of 10, this is what you're going to look at, is it's going to have some information. Here's the code. Here's a README file that's going to have basically little to nothing that's in here. Now, this is not what you want your repos to look like. And the reason why, in order for me to really see what's going on, I'm going to have to, clone this repo, install it, and then run it to actually see exactly what the code is, because all it tells me is this is supposedly the solutions to Coderbyte coding challenges, and that's it. So it doesn't give me information that's on there. One of the better ways of looking at things, here's another one of my repos that I have that's out on my GitHub profile. Up here at the very top, you have an edit that's at the top of every single repo that you have. You have an option of putting in a very short description and a website location. You should be filling this out for every single repo that you have on GitHub. And if nothing else, using it with keywords that says this Snapit, repo is a, it uses Angular, it uses Node.js, it's got bootstraps, and it tells you information about it. If you have the ability to host your code in a working format, like on Heroku, on your own website, CodePen, any place like that, make sure you have it hosted on there, because you can put a link in here to the website that's available, so that if somebody's coming in and looking at your code, they can just click on this and actually see it in working. They don't have to clone it. They don't have to, npm install, bower install, anything. They can just go directly to the website and actually see the code in production. So you want to do that. So make sure you take advantage of this edit part up here, because this is the first thing that people are going to see before they actually see your code. Then the next thing that you're going to see is your README file. What you want is a very good README file, because even if somebody doesn't look at your code, they're going to always read the README file because they want to see what this repo does. And in my README file here, I've actually, here's my title, here's a basic introduction here, I've got some images that are included, I have a table of contents, basically how you would use the application. Here's, mother screenshots that are of the website that you might see, the home page, what you would see when you actually log in. There's actually a Chrome extension that's built in here of the requirements that you need in order to run this repo. How do you install it? And then if you want to contribute it, if you did this as part of a team, you would have the team information that's on here. So this, even if they never looked at my code, they know for certain exactly what this code does. They can see it, they can read it, they understand it. All of that happened because I just basically tricked out my README file to give them everything that they need to know about it. And then if they actually wanted to see it in production, all they have to do is just come up here and click on this link. So this is one of the best things that you want to do to have, your profile out there. Don't make it look like this. There's a big difference between this one that gives you this information and this one that gives you much more detailed information that's on here. The images that you can put in here of your projects, you can just do screenshots. And what I do in most of my repos, I create a folder called screenshots, and I put the graphic files in here, and I just include it in my repo and just upload it to GitHub. When you do your markup on GitHub, you have an option of actually putting in your picture, and you put the path into that screenshots folder that's out there. And here's another one that I have out here. It has a link to it. Here's the same thing, the technology stack that was used, how to do it. Here's where you can go to do a live demo. And then here's some more screenshots that are in here. So once you've gotten found by a recruiter or an HR manager by using your LinkedIn profile, make sure that your GitHub profile puts your coding skill sets out on your best footing possible. What I recommend doing, and you'll notice on mine, if you look at different repos that I have, they start to look alike in terms of what you see that's out here. Here's a title, here's an introduction. If I have a picture, it would come next, table of contents, the requirements. I actually spent, a couple of hours putting in exactly what I wanted in my README file for one repo. Once I had it in there, then I could copy and paste that into all of my other repos, and then all I had to do was come in and just change the wording to be relevant to that particular repo. So that's the best thing that's out there, is that all right, maybe it won't let me, yep, it let me change back out. So that gives you exactly what you want to do, and I can tell you from my firsthand experience, because I just graduated from boot camp last year, that having my LinkedIn profile, being approached by recruiters, by hiring managers, that came out because I made all the things that I needed in my LinkedIn profile. And then once I came in for an interview, my GitHub profile was set so that it was in a perfect position for them to actually see the skill sets that I had, and I think that was very helpful in me getting a job. So I'm going ahead and end it up right there. And last thing that I want to show you is actually two websites. My website, appropriate labeled enough, is jenniferbland.com, so you can get a hold of me that way if you'd like. The last thing that I have is a website that I actually created after I got a job and after I graduated from boot camp, and it's called codeprep.io. It has over 70 interview questions that I was faced with when I was looking for a job. So you can come in here and you've got questions, general questions that somebody might ask you, JavaScript questions, so it'll say, they'll give you this, what's the difference between these three, and you have to give them the answer. You scroll down, it's got all the information. If you want the answers, you just fill out your email address and I'll send you a PDF with all the information. It also has a quiz on here where it has a question and gives you 4 possible answers. You pick your answer, and then once you get finished, you get down here, you'll click on grade, and it will actually tell you how you did.
Just so you know, it's not actually screen sharing.
Oh,
so
sorry.
I wasn't sure if you were if you were counting on that.
Oh yeah, sorry, I must have stopped my code sharing. I'm screen sharing just a tad early, but the website is codeprep.io, and my website is jenniferbland.com. But feel free to reach out to me if you need a connection, if you need extra endorsements on your LinkedIn profile, if you want me to review your GitHub profile. You can reach out to me. My email address is ratracegrat@gmail.com. But that's it, and I appreciate the opportunity to come in and talk to you, and I wish you all the best of luck and once you graduate, because you're in a great career. You're going to be able to basically easily, double your salary that you had beforehand, coming out as a programmer, and it's going to be a job that you're going to love very much. So thank you very much. Thank
you so much. First of all, I agree immensely, especially with the READMEs on GitHub. I think that's a really easy way to stand out and just head and shoulders above everyone else. Another is do you have a few minutes to stick around and entertain some more questions?
Sure, I'd be glad to.
All right. Well, so as before, you guys feel free to reach out any way, shape, or form, any kind of smoke signals that we can see. We will flag down and make it happen. So fire away.
I also had another question, Jennifer. I was wondering, having an all-star profile on LinkedIn, what was your ratio of recruiters coming to you versus you going out and doing company searches, and how did it make? I mean, it did obviously make a huge difference in your case, but I was wondering how I guess if you could speak on a little bit about that, maybe. Yeah.
My initial job search was I talked to a gentleman that had graduated from the same boot camp that I went to that lives here in Atlanta. And I said, what did you do when you job searched? And he gave me the name of 2 recruiters that he used. And I immediately reached out to them and said, I'm about to graduate, can you help me out? And I started working with them. Once I updated my profile, I started getting contacted by recruiters because I hadn't updated my LinkedIn profile in a couple of years because, I had retired. And when I started updating it, I actually get contact, even to this day, I still get contacted by recruiters, saying, are you open to looking for a new job? And I never got contacted by recruiters or our hiring managers until I started updating it. And once they saw those, all the updates that I was putting in about my projects, my skill sets, that, just basically, set up a radar for these people that are looking to hire, and I started getting contacted, quite a bit. Now, some of them, where people were like, I've got a job in Mizzlou, Montana, would you be interested? I'm like, yeah, no. you know, so some of them you have to take it with a grain of salt, but most of them, you know, because I put in that I was not open to relocation. But you know, some of them don't read, but it was very active for me, where I got a lot of people, you know, communicating with me, and I ended up with the 2 that I started with, and I think, you know, by the end of the month I had like 7 that I was working with, you know, as a result that they had contacted me, and I'm like, sure, you know, if you can put me in front of a hiring manager, here's my resume, you know, what else do you need from me? So
I think that's actually a pretty good lead into the next question, which is from the Q&A app, which says, related to recruiter screening, what are you supposed to ask them to look for in a great results-oriented recruiter? How can they enhance your career versus how can the bad ones, when they're not aware, actually wreck it or cause you harm?
My experience is that most recruiters are good. They only get paid if they place you in a job. So they're going to usually go out of their way to make sure you're going to get a job. When I was working with recruiters, they knew I was working with other recruiters, and so they would constantly, you know, have you got any job offers? Or, you know, are you close to getting any job offers? You know, like, you know, let me know, because I can start pushing the company that I've presented your resume to and see if, you know, they'll make you an offer. I've never had a recruiter that had a negative experience. I will say that if you're working with multiple recruiters, these recruiters might have the same job opening available to let's say 2 different recruiters. The absolute last thing the absolute worst thing that you can have is to have 2 or more recruiters actually present your resume to the same company. And if that happens, you're immediately taken off any opportunity of getting that job. And the reason why, the companies pay the recruiter, usually a percentage of your starting salary. If 2 recruiters have given you your resume and the company ends up hiring them, both of them are going to say, show me the money, you know, I want to get paid. And now they're like, okay, and now I've got to pay 2 people. And most companies will just say, screw it. You know, you may have been the best candidate available, but since you've got that position where you put them in where they're like, which one do I pay if I do hire you? They just won't even bother interviewing you. So if you're working with recruiters, you know, they will tell you the name of the company and the job before they present your resume. And if they aren't doing that, don't use them. If they ask you to pay them, don't use them. So before they submit it, because I'll have, you know, where one recruiter says, I'm submitting you for a job at like Home Depot, and then the next recruiter might call me an hour later and say, I have an opening at Home Depot, and I'm like, no, you can't present me for that because I've already presented. So that's one thing to be aware of with recruiters.
Thank you. And then we have one more coming in through the Q&A app here. And I believe that's Nick Corum. Any advice to a mid-level career changer? Lots of experience, but little for where I actually want to go.
I think most everybody that graduates from a boot camp is in your position. You may have previous experience doing something, anything. You just don't have experience doing programming. I just happen to be an exception. In my class, I think there were 21 people in my class, and there were 2 of us that had previous programming experience. So, you know, 95% don't have that experience. And I think that most companies today are aware of that, and they're aware that you've got this training and that skill set. And in most cases, your training coming out of a boot camp, you will actually have more experience than somebody coming out with a 4-year computer science degree from college, because they might be learning book smarts and, you know, theory and everything else like that, you've got hands-on experience with programming that you've learned in the boot camp that you usually do not get in a college degree. So don't underestimate your abilities and what you've learned in your boot camp. Because some people might say, we'll only have 4 months of training and that's it. That 4 months, you're talking about however many hours a day times however many days a week times 4 months, multiply it out. That's quite a bit of experience that you've got with hands-on experience. You go in and then, once you get in for your interview, most of the times people are going to ask you interview questions, so that will determine how well you know your material. And they might ask you to do a coding challenge or a whiteboard challenge when you're in for your interview in person. As long as you can ace that, I'm working side by side with, I've got 2 people on my team that graduated from Georgia Tech, which is a very well-respected engineering school. I also have a guy that is working on my team that never graduated high school, and then you've got me who has a college degree and an MBA, and we all ended up in the exact same spot because we had the exact same skill sets. So, when you come out and you start looking at it, here in Atlanta, boot camps aren't that prevalent, so most people are like, oh, I don't know what a boot camp is, but then they just jump into asking you questions, and how well you answer them determines, whether or not you're going to get the job. It's not going to be, oh, you don't have a college degree, so I can't hire you. That used to be a mindset about 10, 20 years ago. It's not as prevalent that you see today.
All right. Well, I think we have probably time for one more here, and we have another one about recruiters. It sounds like you have a fair bit of experience. And so this is from Larry, and he says, I get about 5 recruiters a day contacting me, but most are not good. They just waste your time. How do you handle this? And also, do you ever meet with recruiters in person?
Well, one question I would throw back to you, Larry, is how do you know that they're wasting your time? How do you know that they're not good?
I don't know if I don't know. This is just via the Q&A app, so I'm not sure if he's.
Okay, that's something that he needs to answer. Is he probably got an email from a recruiter, and he made a decision on whether or not they're good or not. Now, I will say I have gotten emails from the recruiters that, as I mentioned earlier, they're like, would you like to work in Montana? And I'm like, no, thank you very much, and move on to the next one. That doesn't mean all recruiters are not the same. Here in Atlanta, for big companies, almost all the big companies, like you've got Home Depot, Coca-Cola, CNN, Turner, Time Warner, all of these big companies that are here in Atlanta, they only hire through recruiters. Now, most of the people in my class, my boot camp, went and got jobs in San Francisco, and out there, using recruiters is not as prevalent as it is here in Atlanta. If a recruiter is bad, and they're trying to push you to something that you're not qualified for or you don't want to do, you don't have to do business with them. You can just withdraw your resume from them, say don't present me, and just move on to the next one that's available that's out there.
Well, I think that takes us to the end. Again, this has been enormously helpful. Thank you for having such practicality with all the tips. This is something that I think I'm going to go back and look at again, and I suspect that other people will too. So Jennifer, thank you so much for sharing with us. Thank you for putting together that presentation, and thank you for making the time.
Thank you very much, and I hope everybody the best, and you have a get you the perfect dream job that you're looking for.
All right, well, and to everyone who's watching now or later, thanks for tuning into the Viking Codecast, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Have a good night, everyone.
Great. Thanks, Jennifer.
Thanks, Jennifer. You were great.
Great advice.
Thank you so much for your time.